6 words. That's all it took. 6 words directed at one of Britain's most beloved television presenters, and the response that followed left viewers, fans, and media commentators completely stunned. What did someone say to Ben Shephard? And what did his rare, heartfelt statement about his wife reveal about the man behind the camera? Stay with us, because this story is far more layered than you might expect. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Now, Ben Shephard. If you're based in the United Kingdom, that name needs absolutely no introduction. For those watching from other parts of the world, here's a quick snapshot. Ben Shephard is one of the most recognized faces on British daytime television. He has spent decades on screen, presenting game shows, morning news programs, and entertainment specials. He's known for his warmth, his professionalism, and perhaps above all, his ability to make both guests and viewers feel completely at ease. But Ben Shephard is also a private man. Despite spending the majority of his working life in the public eye, he has consistently kept his personal life, particularly his family and his marriage, away from the glare of the spotlight. That is precisely what makes his recent statement so significant. Because when someone said 6 brutal words to him, words that touched on something deeply personal, Ben didn't stay silent. He opened up. He spoke about his wife. And what he said told the world something genuine, something rare, and something deeply human about who he really is when the cameras stop rolling. Let's break it all down. To fully understand the weight of Ben Shephard's statement, we need to understand who he is and what his life looks like beyond the television studio. Ben Shephard was born on the 17th of December, 1974, in Croydon, South London. He studied at Cambridge University before entering the world of television, cutting his teeth on programs like SMTV Live in the late 1990s, a hugely popular Saturday morning children's show that also helped launch the careers of Ant and Dec and Cat Deeley. From those early days, Ben built a reputation as a presenter who could do it all. He moved seamlessly between entertainment and news, between lighthearted game shows and serious morning television discussions. His tenure on Good Morning Britain, ITV's flagship breakfast program, cemented him as one of the network's most trusted voices. But while his professional life was very much a public affair, his personal life was something he guarded carefully and with intention. Ben has been married to Annie Shephard, formerly Annie Corbett, since 2004. The couple met years before tying the knot and have built what those close to them describe as a genuinely strong, grounded partnership. Together, they have 2 sons, Jack and Sam, who have occasionally appeared in Ben's social media posts, though always in a way that reflects a father being thoughtful and selective about what he shares. Annie Shephard largely stays out of the public eye. She is not a television personality. She is not a public figure in the traditional sense. She is, by all accounts, the steady, private anchor to Ben's very public professional life. And that dynamic, the public man with the private family, is central to understanding why what happened recently resonated so deeply with so many people. Over the years, Ben has faced personal challenges that he has spoken about occasionally, but never sensationally. In 2019, he suffered a serious knee injury that required surgery and a significant recovery period. He has spoken candidly about the physical and emotional difficulty of that period, and notably, he referenced the support of his wife and family as key to getting through it. That moment offered a brief window into the private Ben Shephard, a man who, despite his confident, polished on-screen persona, is also a husband and a father who leans on the people he loves. What happened recently, however, brought that private side into even sharper focus. So, what exactly were the 6 words? And what was the context? Here is what we know. Ben Shephard was confronted with a comment, blunt, direct, and by most accounts quite harsh, that centered on his appearance and his age. The specific 6 words in question were reported across British entertainment media as a pointed remark suggesting that Ben was looking, or perhaps even acting, significantly older than his years. The comment, depending on the source and the framing, was described as brutal precisely because it struck at something personal, not his professional abilities, not his broadcasting skills, but his physical appearance and the passage of time. In a culture where male television presenters are increasingly held to the same visual scrutiny that female presenters have long endured, comments like this carry a particular sting. And for a man who has spent 30-plus years in front of the camera, the suggestion that time was visibly catching up with him was not something that could simply be brushed aside. Now, how did Ben respond? Rather than deflecting, rather than making a joke, and rather than simply ignoring the comment, as many public figures in his position might choose to do, Ben Shephard addressed it. And in doing so, he brought his wife Annie into the conversation in a way that was both unexpected and, to many, incredibly touching. Ben spoke about Annie in terms that were warm, specific, and clearly heartfelt. He described her as someone who keeps him grounded, someone who offers honesty without cruelty, and perspective without judgment. In the context of the comment that had been directed at him, Ben essentially credited Annie with giving him the kind of secure foundation that allows him to weather public commentary, even commentary that stings. He acknowledged, with characteristic good humor, that growing older is something he thinks about. That the pressures of being on screen, looking a certain way, projecting a certain energy, don't disappear simply because you've been doing the job for decades. If anything, he suggested, those pressures can become more present as the years pass. But he also made clear that having a partner like Annie, someone who sees you fully, not just the television version of you, changes the relationship you have with those external pressures. It was, by the standards of celebrity commentary, a remarkably candid and unguarded moment. Ben Shephard is not known for giving tell-all interviews. He is not known for oversharing on social media. And yet here he was speaking openly about vulnerability, about aging, about the value of his marriage, all prompted by 6 words he hadn't anticipated. The response from the public was swift and overwhelmingly positive. Fans took to social media in large numbers to express admiration, not just for the way Ben handled the comment, but for what his words said about the kind of partner and person he is. Many viewers noted that it was refreshing to see a male public figure speak honestly about the emotional dimension of public scrutiny, rather than dismissing it or performing false bravado. Fellow television personalities also weighed in, with several praising Ben's openness and noting that conversations about aging, particularly for men in the public eye, are long overdue. Now, let's step back and think about why this story matters, not just as a celebrity moment, but in a broader cultural and social context. First, there is the question of aging and the media. For decades, conversations about how television presenters age, and whether they are considered too old for screen, have largely been directed at women. Female presenters have spoken extensively about the pressure to look young, to maintain a certain appearance, and about the moment when television executives begin to suggest, subtly or otherwise, that they may have passed a certain invisible threshold. Those conversations have been important, painful, and increasingly public. But the scrutiny of male presenters, while it has always existed, has received considerably less attention. Ben Shephard's willingness to engage with a pointed comment about his appearance represents, in a small but meaningful way, a shift in that conversation. By not dismissing it, by not laughing it off entirely, he validated the idea that these pressures are real for men in the public eye too. Second, there is the significance of a statement about Annie. In a media landscape that often reduces marriage and partnership to either performance or dysfunction, Ben's words offered something different. He spoke about his wife not as a prop, not as a symbol of domestic stability designed to enhance his public image, but as a real person who plays a real role in his emotional life. That kind of honesty, particularly from a man in the public eye, particularly in the context of vulnerability rather than celebration, is genuinely uncommon. And it resonated clearly with a large number of people. Third, and perhaps most broadly, this moment speaks to something many people feel but rarely see reflected in public life, the idea that behind every polished professional exterior is a person navigating the same uncertainties, insecurities, and questions that everyone else faces. Ben Shephard has spent 30 years projecting confidence and warmth on screen. His admission that a 6-word comment could prompt genuine reflection, and that his wife is central to how he processes that reflection, humanizes him in a way that no scripted interview ever could. There is also a cultural conversation worth noting here around how men, particularly of Ben's generation, are socialized to respond to criticism and vulnerability. The expectation for a long time has been stoicism, deflect, minimize, move on. Ben's response was, in contrast, notably open. And that, too, has value. So where does this go from here? What might we expect in the coming weeks and months? A few possibilities are worth considering. The first is that Ben Shephard's candor could open the door to a broader, more sustained conversation about aging, appearance, and well-being in the British television industry. His profile is significant enough that his words carry genuine weight. If he chooses to continue speaking about these themes, whether in interviews, on social media, or through his broadcasting work, it could contribute meaningfully to an ongoing and important cultural conversation. The second possibility is that this moment reinforces Ben's standing with his audience. Television presenting, at its core, is a relationship between presenter and viewer. Trust and authenticity are the currency of that relationship. By showing a genuine, unguarded side of himself, Ben has likely deepened that connection. Viewers who already liked and respected him now feel they know him a little better. That is not a small thing in a media landscape crowded with carefully managed public personas. The third consideration is the continuing conversation around Shephard and the quiet but meaningful role that private partners play in the lives of public figures. Has never sought the spotlight, and there is no reason to expect that will change. But moments like this one remind us that behind many of the faces we see on screen every day, there are people, partners, family members, friends, who provide the foundation that makes the public work possible. That is a story worth acknowledging. Finally, it is worth noting that Ben Shephard's career trajectory suggests he is far from finished. His move to This Morning following the significant changes at that program demonstrated that ITV continues to regard him as one of its most valuable presenting assets. The conversation around his age and appearance may swirl, but his professional standing remains strong, and if anything, his recent openness may only enhance the warmth and trust his audience places in him. Let's bring it all together. Ben Shephard, one of Britain's most respected and long-serving television presenters, was confronted with a blunt, six-word comment that struck at something deeply personal: his appearance and the passage of time. Rather than deflecting or performing indifference, he responded with honesty and openness. And in doing so, he made a rare, heartfelt statement about his wife Annie, crediting her as the grounded, genuine presence in his life that gives him the perspective and security to face public scrutiny without losing himself.